So I don't even know how it happened, but it did. Not only did the Everett Elks lose all their players once again, but they actually lost their franchise, and the Moncton Tigers are going to be taking over here. But unfortunately, they have only 0 overall players, except for 3 guys that are going to be saving this team. We're bringing a forward, a goaltender, and a defenseman onto the team immediately, and we're going to see an 85 overall Alex Edler, a 90 overall Phil Kessel, and when it comes in between the pipes, we have 85 overall Yaroslav Halak. And you might be wondering, well, these aren't their correct overalls. These are way higher than what they should be. Well, today, every single player in the NHL has returned to their prime, and we're going to try to turn the Moncton Tigers into Stanley Cup champions. So, of course, with us already having 3 players on the team, we're going to immediately sim season number 1 here. But I think it's safe to say, even though we have 3 players that are back in their prime, we're not going to be winning a Stanley Cup just yet. So while we simulate through season number 1 here and watch the game crash, we were able to hit 65k subs by the end of the month. But you know what? We have a few days left, so we got to up it. Let's see if we can hit 66k. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. And as I just said, the game just crashed. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see who we're going to be adding next. So how is this going to work? Well, I'm going to spin the wheel of NHL teams, and basically every single team has 1 player that's now back in their prime. The first team we're starting off with, the perfect team, the St. Louis Blues. Now, normally in a situation like this, I would go with Jordan Binnington, bring a great goaltender to the team, an 87 overall back when he won us the Stanley Cup. But you know what? That's actually not who we're going to go with. We have an 86 overall Yaroslav Halak. He can hold it down for now. We could go with Torrey Krug. He's back up to an 87. But you know what? We need some more star power on this team. Braden Shen, you're an 87 overall. You're going to be the first addition to the team here. Well, first real addition. I mean, we already had 3 guys on this team, but you're the first player we're going to be selecting because of the wheel. So we've added Braden Shen to the team, and for some reason, Alex Edler's still going to be playing some forward minutes for this team. So he's going to be on the left wing. We're going to have a complete forward line here. Alex Edler, Braden Shen, Phil Kessel, and of course, we already know who the goaltender is. That's not going to be changing. We got Halak in between the pipes. So what a great season. We were just 3 games away from completing it, and the game has crashed once again. So we're 2 seasons in, 2 crashes. Definitely not a great sign for what's to come. So Braden Shen, you weren't the savior for this team. You actually didn't even help us get through a season here. The Arizona Coyotes would be fantastic, but we're getting the Anaheim Ducks. Because Arizona, they have a lot of very good players that are now back in their prime. So when it comes to the Anaheim Ducks, nothing really changed here. John Gibson's up to an 89. I think Trevor Zegras might have went up 1 overall. I think the same with Troy Terry. Alex Killorn went from an 84 to an 85. So yeah, John Gibson, you're really the only notable change here. So you're going to be our starting goaltender from here on out. 89 overall. I can definitely live with that. A John Gibson, Yaroslav Halak tandem, nothing to complain about with that. An 89 and 86, we're going to be set when it comes to the goaltending department. So our goaltending tandem is going to be set for the rest of the video here, unless something ridiculous happens and we end up bringing on a 3rd goaltender, but I don't think that's going to be happening. However, there is one team in specific where if I land on them, I probably will bring a goaltender to the team. I'm not going to mention which team that is. I actually take that back. There's 2 teams if I land on, then more than likely I'll bring on a goaltender, but we're going to worry about that later. Right now, John Gibson and Yaroslav Halak, they're the 2 guys for us. Now, the real question is not are we going to win a game this season, or not are we going to lose in overtime. The real question is, can we actually get through the season? Like, it's back-to-back seasons now where we've crashed. Just make it through the entire season here so we can see what happens. Yeah, so this is actually a joke. It froze on October 28th. We made it through 8 games, and the game froze. It didn't crash, but it froze. That is something. Now, in all seriousness, I don't know what it's going to take for us to get through one season here. I just want to complete a season. Am I really asking for too much? The Vancouver Canucks are the next team we're selecting from. I'm trying to think who's back in their prime from that team. Yeah, so when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, we're not really doing anything here other than bringing Elias Lindholm to the team. And you could probably make the argument that he shouldn't be up to an 88 overall. I improved him from an 86 to an 88. But I do believe at one point he was sitting at 88 overall. So technically he's back in his prime, which is an 88. Yeah, there's no one else from the Vancouver Canucks. Like Brock Besser, 87 here. Connor Garland, 84. No one else is making significant jumps. So yeah, Elias Lindholm, you're going to be the guy we're bringing to the team here. 88 overall forward. You're definitely not going to hurt the team, that's for sure. So we now have a forward core that consists of all forwards here. Elias Lindholm, Braden Shen, and Phil Kessler are going to be holding it down that number 1 line. When it comes to the defense, Alex Edler's finally going to play some defensive minutes, and the goaltending tandem, we already know what that's about. But please, 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 just get through one season here. We can't be crashing and freezing every single season. Eventually, we do have to see what this team can do. Like, last season was the worst. We only got through 8 games. At least when it crashed the year before, we crashed in the final week of the season. Get past October 28th and we're going to be looking good here. Maybe we'll actually be able to get through a season. Okay, wait, hold on. We actually just lost a game in overtime. Oh no, I think it froze. I think the game just froze. No way it froze when we have a 0-20-1 record. So yeah, we're not making it through this season. The game froze. I don't even know who we lost in overtime against. So there's another season down the drain here. The game's completely frozen. Let's spin that wheel. No, but in all seriousness, normally when I would do these videos with the Everett Elks, it would freeze in season number 1, freeze in season number 2, but eventually things would straighten out. We're heading into simulation, what, number 4, number 5, and we are yet to get through an entire season. This is ridiculous. The Philadelphia Flyers, I actually really like this team right here because we're going to be adding a very good defenseman. So I'll take a bit of the blame on that last season freezing because I tried to pause the simulation in order to see who we lost to in overtime, and then by doing that, the game froze. But you know what? We're not going to worry about it. We're just going to move on here, and this is going to be the defenseman we're adding to the team here. 88 overall, Mark Stahl. He's back in his prime. At 36 years old, he's an 88 overall. This man was an absolute dominant defenseman in his prime, and now he's back in his prime, and he's on the Moncton Tigers. I'm going to be completely honest though, I completely forgot Mark Stahl was on the Philadelphia Flyers. The guy I thought we were bringing to the team was going to be Ryan Ellis, because technically he's still on the Philadelphia Flyers. But you know what? I'll definitely take an 88 overall Mark Stahl. So we officially have a full lineup that we can run here. Lindholm, Schenn, and Phil Kessel. When it comes to the defense, I want to make sure that both of these guys are playing alongside each other. I don't care if they're both left defensemen. We just want one complete lineup that we can actually run. And the goaltending, we already know what that's looking like. I've mentioned it 9 million times so far. But please, 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 just get through the season. I'm not even going to try to pause the simulation if we win a game or lose a game in OT. I just want to get through the entire season. This is beyond ridiculous that we've added this many players and we have done this many simulations. You're kidding me. No, this is actually a joke. We didn't even get through game number 1 and this game immediately crashed. This is beyond ridiculous. It's not like I've never done a video like this before. I have done videos like this a million times, but yet when I try to do it today, it just keeps crashing and freezing. We're spinning the wheel again, but this is absolutely ridiculous here. So here we go, attempt number 7 at simulating through one season. But you know what? We gotta spin the wheel first. We have to add a new player to the team because I'm not gonna try to simulate season after season just to get through one and then add a player. If the game crashes, that season counts. So who's gonna be the next team we land on here? Low key, I actually really want to land on the Arizona Coyotes, but the Detroit Red Wings, I can definitely work with that. So when it comes to the Detroit Red Wings, this is an absolute no-brainer. We all know who we're going to be adding to the team here. 94 overall Patrick Kane. This decision doesn't even have to be considered. He's now the best player we have. But it doesn't really matter how good our team looks because we all know for a fact this game's going to crash in the first week. Just allow me to get through one season. I want to see what this team can do. Like when I record videos with the Everett Elks and now the Moncton Tigers, I expect it to crash once or twice and it's going to freeze a couple times. And the reason that happens is I'm pretty sure the game just can't comprehend how many goals we're allowing. The game caps out at like 1023 or something like that. You know what? We have 2 goaltenders here. We have a handful of NHL players who are back in their prime. There should be absolutely no reason why we're crashing this frequently and it's freezing this frequently. Like, explain to me what's wrong with this team right now. We're not a 0 overall team. We have 2 goaltenders. We have a couple forwards here. We have a couple defensemen. I don't know what could possibly be triggering this game to crash as much as it has, and I can't figure out what's causing it to freeze as much as it is. So here's what the team's looking like, but it doesn't really matter how good we look here. We're probably not even going to get through the season. So we got to give this team a round of applause. Not only did we lose a game in a shootout here, we won this game in a shootout, but we actually got through the entire season. We can finally look at the team stats here. Like, I really never thought I would see the day that the Moncton Tigers get through an entire season. A 3-78-1 record. What a great start. Like, I can't even complain about what this team did in the slightest. I don't care if the good players on this team didn't perform as well as I was expecting. I mean, they played pretty good. I can't really complain about this. And I can't complain about the fact that these goaltenders didn't really pick up any wins this season. I mean, I can't really expect them to. The fact that we were just able to get through one season is a massive success for us. The Minnesota Wild, they're going to win the Stanley Cup here. But you know what? We got through one season and we can celebrate that. That's almost more impressive than winning a Stanley Cup if you ask me. So it only took us like 5 years, but we finally made it through one complete season. We're off to the Seattle Kraken next. Who's back in their prime from this team? Can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. I just remembered who's on the Seattle Kraken and is now back in their prime, and the fact that I forgot about this player is honestly just disrespectful because it is very clear who we're going to be bringing to the team here. It's not going to be Jordan Eberle, although he is technically back in his prime. I believe he's an 87 overall, maybe an Kane, 88 overall. But you know who is rejoining this team? Jaden Schwartz, 87 overall, a St. Louis legend. This man helped us win a Stanley Cup. I can't believe I forgot he's on the Seattle Kraken, but he's back in his prime, 87 overall. The boys are back in town. Schwartz and Schenn together. All we have to do is bring Tarasenko back and we got the big three. So of course, Schenn and Schwartz have to play alongside each other, and eventually we got to bring Tarasenko to the team. We got to bring the big three back together. We're pretty close to having two forward lines here. When it comes to the defense, we still have to work on that, but we got a great start here. It's definitely not going to take too long before this team's hoisting a cup. But then again, I'm also gassing up a team that doesn't have a bottom six right now and only has one defensive pairing. So yeah, it actually is going to take a lot longer than we think. So the Moncton Tigers are looking even better this season with the addition of Jaden Schwartz. We're going to be winning 4 games this season, not 3. So the team's definitely seen progression. When it comes to the scoring on the team, that's not really changing too much. Patrick Kane's going to lead the way once again, 71 points. Phil the Thrill, he's picking up 60. Elias Lindholm, he's got 46 here. And the goaltending tandem, both of these guys are having pretty solid numbers this season. They're both getting 2 wins, but Jaroslav Halak, you were definitely the better goaltender, no question about it. So with another season complete, that means another Stanley Cup champion. This time it's going to be the Columbus Blue Jackets taking down the Winnipeg Jets. That's a very ridiculous Stanley Cup final, and I can't see us ever seeing this matchup in the future. No, like seriously, imagine the Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the Winnipeg Jets in the Stanley Cup final. The media would put so little effort into hyping up that Stanley Cup final. It would be beyond ridiculous. But you know who the media were definitely hyping up during their prime? The Pittsburgh Penguins, and now everyone on that team's back in their prime. So it's clear who we're going to be selecting. So we all know what the Pittsburgh Penguins looked like during their prime, but it's very obvious who we're selecting here. Sidney Crosby, 96 overall, Sid the Kid. Welcome to the Moncton Tigers. Pretty close to your hometown, so I feel like this is very fitting. Now this team is certainly going to be something special in the future. Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, and Phil Kessel on the first line. Jaden Schwartz, Brent, Schenn, Lindholm on the second. We have no weaknesses here other than the bottom 6 and like 2 of our 3 defensive pairings. Outside of that though, this team is pretty good. Okay, I'm going to keep it $150 here. With the addition of Sidney Crosby, I thought we would win more than 5 games. We had 2 OT losses, so this is the best season we've had. But Sidney Crosby, you led the team in points. And how many points did you have? Well, you had 63. Somehow with the addition of Sidney Crosby, our offense actually took a slight step back. I mean, we were technically scoring more goals per game because we have better players on the team. But yeah, Patrick Kane had 70 points last season. This season, our leading scorer was Sidney Crosby with 63, so not the greatest sign in the world. The goaltending for this team, John Gibson was great, even picking up a shutout. But Jaroslav Halak, what happened to the great goaltender we used to have? Like, you were absolutely phenomenal last season, and then you completely fell apart this time around. But you know what? We're not going to worry too much about it. We still haven't really put a defense in front of you guys. When the playoffs came to an end, we're going to see the Winnipeg Jets taking down the Carolina Hurricanes in a 7-game series. Once again, Winnipeg making it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. What's going on here? Because I really didn't change any players on their team. Nobody really returned to their prime. I mean, Nate Schmidt did. I think he's up to an 85 overall. But outside that, nothing really changed significantly with Winnipeg. I mean, they also do have a prime Sean Monahan now, and I believe he's like an 87 overall. So yeah, that team's actually taking some massive strides. The Carolina Hurricanes, you got some decent players that we can bring to the team. Now, Carolina has a ton of great players here. Sebastian Aho, Jake Getzel, Freddie Anderson, Kuznetsov, who's back in his prime. But out of all these players right here, it's clear who we're going to be taking. We got to bring a defenseman onto the team, and that's going to be 92 overall Brent Burns. He's now going to be the best defenseman here, and he's going to be leading that defense. He's also a right defenseman, so he's our first true right defenseman joined the team today. So our defense has seen a massive upgrade here with the addition of Brent Burns, a 92 overall, playing alongside an 88 overall and Mark Stahl, a great defensive defenseman playing alongside a great offensive defenseman. This pairing is going to show no weaknesses on the ice. So with the offensive firepower from Brent Burns, the team was a borderline 10-win team this season, a 9-68-5 record. We're seeing a lot of success here. I mean, I really shouldn't say we're seeing a lot of success. We won 9 games. Can't gas the team up too much. But Patrick Kane, 77 points. Sidney Crosby, 77. Phil Kessel's picking up 70. Brent Burns, I'm going to be completely honest, I was expecting way more than 43 points this season. You let me down quite a bit here. The goaltending must have looked great from both these goaltenders. A 907 and a 904. I don't really care about the goals against. We're still allowing quite a few shots a game. So with these save percentages right here, the goaltending tandem's looking great. But it wasn't good enough to get us into the postseason. We're going to see the Dallas Stars matching up against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup final. And of course, when you have to win an important game, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to choke and they're losing in 7 games. Like, it's only fitting for the Toronto Maple Leafs to make it all the way way to the Stanley Cup final to find a way to lose in 7 games. The Winnipeg Jets are going to be the next team we're selecting from. The real question is, do we go with Nate Schmidt or do we go with Sean Monahan? 2 great options. You can't really go wrong either way. So as I mentioned, the Winnipeg Jets have 2 main guys returning to their prime here. Sean Monahan, he's back up to an 87 overall, where Nate Schmidt, he's up to an 85. Do we go with the 87 overall forward? Do we go with the 85 overall defenseman? I mean, Nate Schmidt, he's pretty solid across the board. He would be a great defenseman for us. However, Sean Monahan, he's an 87 overall. He's having a fantastic season this year. So you know what? We have to reward him and bring him on to the Moncton Tigers. Now, Sean Monahan, I don't think you're going to be changing too much for this team because we still aren't looking that good, especially the bottom 6 and last 2 defensive pairings. But you know what? You're definitely going to be a great centerman for us in the future. An 87 overall in the 3rd line, that's definitely something I'm not against. So Sean Monahan, I think I was hyping you up a bit too much here. I was talking about how you're a great piece for the team. You're going to be amazing for the bottom 6 here. Then we proceeded to win 5 games this season. A 5-73-4 record. We were actually worse than we were last season. Sidney Crosby, 66 points. I don't even want to look at the team stats. We were clearly not a good team this season. Meanwhile, the Edmonton Oilers, they're going to match up against the New Jersey Devils in the Stanley Cup final, and the Oilers are going to be coming out on top in a 7-game series. So yeah, let's just pretend that Sean Monahan didn't make our team worse. Let's spin the wheel. Give me the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, the Washington Capitals would be a good selection as well because we get Alexander Ovechkin, but Vegas, I guess I can live with that. So when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, not too many players are going to be returning to their prime. Alex Pietrangelo, I think he went from an 87 to an 89. Not a crazy jump there. But you know what? Alec Martinez is going to be the guy we add to the team here. Not only is he having the highest overall jump, but he's going to be a great defenseman for us. 85 overall. He's got an X factor. He's going to be the last addition to our left side. So clearly Sean Monahan was not the right selection. We needed to bring a defenseman onto the team. So that's what we did with our last selection. Alex Edler and Alec Martinez, you guys are going to be on the 2nd pairing together. Yeah, Alec Martinez is a left defenseman, but you know what? Who really cares? I want both of these guys playing alongside each other. Hopefully 2 complete defensive pairings is going to be the difference. Yeah, so all along we just needed another defenseman. By adding Alec Martinez to the team, a 16-62-4 record. If we keep on improving the defense, this team's going to keep on seeing success. But on top of improving the defense, we also improved the goal scoring here, and Sidney Crosby and Phil Kessel didn't have negative plus minuses here. Crosby, he had a 0, but Phil the Thrill Kessel a +3. The first player we're going to see with a positive plus minus is Phil the Thrill Kessel. That only seems right. When it comes to goaltending numbers, I don't care about these whatsoever. Phil the Thrill Kessel +3. At the beginning of this video, I think we all knew that Phil Kessel would eventually lead the way for us. When the Stanley Cup final finished up though, we're going to see the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Vancouver Canucks, and the Penguins coming out on top in 7 games. I'm going to be completely honest, I'm very surprised Pittsburgh hasn't seen more success in this video because Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and Carlson are all back in their prime, and Tristan Jarry, he's up to an 87. Like, to me, that team is destined for success with overalls like that. Clearly, those superstar players aren't going to be enough if you have 0 depth on your team. The Florida Panthers can't really think about who you're going to be giving us. I know Sergei Bobrovsky's now up to a 90 overall after returning to his prime, but who else has returned to their prime there? So when it comes to this next selection, overall doesn't mean anything to me. Jaden Schwartz, Braden Shen, Vladimir Tarasenko, the big 3 is back here. The Moncton Tigers might go 82-0 now. Now the big 3 is back, and it's been a very long time. Tarasenko, Braden Shen, Jaden Schwartz. When these 3 guys played on the same line together, they were the best players in the league. Nobody could compete with their dominance. I just remember during the good old days for the St. Louis Blues, when this team was in their prime, these 3 guys, when playing alongside each other, were absolutely unstoppable. They were all averaging a point a game, but things changed once Jaden Schwartz broke his foot. I remember the team looking absolutely fantastic, then Schwartz went down with an injury, and things weren't the same after that. I mean, granted, we eventually won a Stanley Cup once everyone got healthy, but during that one season when all 3 of those guys were playing together, they were something special. Okay, I'm an old head at this point. Blues placed Jaden Schwartz on IR with a fractured ankle, so he didn't break his foot, he fractured his ankle. When did this happen? Only back in 2015, 9 years ago, this man fractured his ankle. I did not realize it was that long ago. Paul Stastny was the guy that broke his foot during this season. I remember during this 2015-2016 season, we dealt with injury after injury after injury. Paul Stastny broke his foot, and then Jaden Schwartz fractured his ankle. But this really happened in 2015. I remember this like it was yesterday. I am old as dirt now. So of course the big 3 is going to help us see a lot of success. Our first 20-win campaign, a 20-51-11 record, but man, Jaden Schwartz fracturing his ankle in 2015, that does not sit right with me. Ain't no way it was back in 2015. Like, just for a bit of context, in the 2015-2016 season, that's when TJ Oshie played his first season with the Washington Capitals. I remember us trading TJ Oshie over to the Washington Capitals, and I was heartbroken by this because I love TJ Oshie and he was a great player. But TJ Oshie only played 7 seasons with the St. Louis Blues. How many has he played with the Washington Capitals? 9. This man has been a Washington Capital longer than he was a St. Louis Blue. There is no way you could have convinced me that TJ Oshie has been on the Washington Capitals longer than he's been on the St. Louis Blues. How is that even possible? But you know what? That's enough ranting for me, but I just can't process the fact that TJ Oshie has played 9 seasons with the Washington Capitals. This man has almost been there for a decade. How does that happen? But you know what? That's just how time works, and it's going to keep on passing, so we can't look in the past. We got to look to the future here. The Calgary Flames, I know you have Jonathan Huberdeau. He's back up to a 91 now that he's back in his prime, and he's going to be joining the Moncton Tigers. So as I said, we already know who we're adding to the team here. Not too much has to go into this selection. 91 overall Jonathan Huberdeau. Welcome to the Moncton Tigers. So we have to make some very difficult decisions here. Now it is very clear that Schwartz, Schenn, and Tarasenko are playing together for the rest of this video. The big three has to stick together. But by the big three sticking together and playing on the second line, that means we're going to have a third line of Phil Kessel, Elias Lindholm, and Sean Monahan. Now granted, Phil Kessel and Elias Lindholm should probably be on the second line. But you know what? I don't want that. I want to make sure the big three sticks together. So we have a top 9. So we officially have a top 9. We got to work on the fourth line here. We got to work on the third defensive pairing. But outside of that, the team's looking fantastic. So I don't know what trend this is, but for some reason, every single time we add a forward to the team, we don't really see too much more success. A 22, 53, and 7 record, we actually might have been worse than last season. How come every single time we add a forward, we do worse? But there is one thing that we can celebrate here. Our leading scorer, Vladimir Tarasenko. The big three really held it down here. Tarasenko, Schwartz, Schenn, these guys were locked in. The rest of the team was pretty abysmal. Like, I have no clue why we weren't seeing success here. The goaltending tandem, like Halak, you were just bad, plain and simple. An 891, look at John Gibson. He had a 911 and he had a 349. He did this without a fourth line and without a third defensive pairing. What did you do? An 891 and a 418. That's just not good enough here, especially if we're trying to win Stanley Cups. The Winnipeg Jets are once again going to make it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, and they're going to find a way to take the Devils down in a 5-game series. So we've been able to learn from the past that defensemen make a massive difference. So with that being said, give me the Arizona Coyotes. Now you might be wondering, why do I want the Arizona Coyotes so bad? Well, technically they have a player on their team. Okay, I really wanted Montreal there so bad. We can live with Nashville, but Montreal would have been elite. So instead of bringing Shea Weber to the team and instead of bringing Carey Price to the team, we're going to be bringing somebody from the Nashville Predators here. Who are we bringing from the Nashville Predators? It's probably going to be 86 overall Ryan McDonough. However, 85 overall Tyson Barrie, that wouldn't be a bad selection either. Now we're one defenseman away from completing the defensive core here, and I can definitely live with what we have. Alex Edler, Alec Martinez, Ryan McDonough, Brett Burns, Mark Stahl, all in their prime. You can definitely see success with a defense looking like this. Now this season could be massive for the Moncton Tigers. If a team was just historically bad, we're going to be second last here. Unfortunately, we are going to be last, but the Buffalo Sabres, they were pretty close. A 29-44-9 record for them. Meanwhile, we had a 27-46-9 record. So if Buffalo just choked a couple more of those games, we would have been second last in the entire league. But I don't know why I'm just talking about Buffalo. Anaheim, you guys were pretty bad as well. Like, Anaheim was about to get a pass there, but I caught it. They were looking terrible as well. You know who wasn't looking terrible though? Sid the Kid. He's picking up 83 points here, and a prime Jonathan Huberdeau only 65. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting a lot more. And the goaltending numbers, I mean, both of these guys were great this season, so what can I truly complain about? Like, when the team is looking this good, we're destined for success. However, we still need a few more elite players. To finish out this season, the Penguins are gonna be hoisting another Stanley Cup. They're taking down the Colorado Avalanche in a 6-game series. Now, best case scenario, we land on the Arizona Coyotes and we can cap this off with an elite defenseman. However, we're actually off to the Ottawa Senators. Now, they don't have too many players returning to their prime, but they do have one guy that's pretty good. So as I said, the Ottawa Senators don't have too many players returning to their prime, but they do have one, and he's going to be a really good player for us. Meet 89 overall Claude Giroux, the newest addition to the Moncton Tigers. So off the rip, you might be saying, well, an 89 for Claude Giroux, that's a bit disrespectful. He was a fantastic player. The only problem I have when creating these ratings is over time, the rating system has completely changed, so a 91 overall in one game is not a 91 overall in the current game. The way that ratings and attributes are assessed are completely different than they were 10 years ago. But at the end of the day, we just added an 89 overall player to the team. We're going to be all right. Okay, so this season was an absolute joke. Okay, this makes it way worse. You didn't see that. You did not see that. The Moncton Tigers were definitely last in the entire league. The team just did not perform this season. A lot of the players just weren't that good, and the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. You did not see that. Yeah, the Moncton Tigers were definitely the worst team in the entire league last season, no question about it. There was no team worse than us. So we've landed on the New York Rangers, and here's where things are going to get a bit messy. And this is why things are about to get a bit messy. So we have two great goaltenders right now. We really don't need another one. However, the Rangers have a really good backup goaltender. His name is Jonathan Quick. He has a 93 overall. He would be incredible for this team. Do I pass up on a prime Jonathan Quick? Because we have to consider our other options here. I mean, Blake Wheeler is another option. We could just go with him. Yeah, we're going to go with Blake Wheeler here, and I'm going to pass up on a prime Jonathan Quick. Is this a very stupid decision? Absolutely. But we have two goaltenders we can win with. Plain and simple, a prime John Gibson can win a Stanley Cup with the Moncton Tigers. Would Jonathan Quick be a lot better for us? Absolutely. But we're going to go with John Gibson, and we're going to stick with John Gibson. So we're one forward away, and we're one defenseman away from completing this team here. I think we're going to be in a really good spot once we fill out these last few holes. I mean, we're a really good team, no question about it. Our only weaknesses, these two Joe NHLs. Sorry, not Joe NHLs, Jordan NHLs, because EA really had to go through the effort of changing that. So I have some great news this season. The St. Louis Blues are bouncing back after whatever happened last season. Like, they weren't a great team. I don't really recall where they placed, but I just know they weren't a good team. I also have some other good news. Moncton's in the postseason. With this team making it to the postseason, I'm expecting better numbers from the top guys here. Sidney Crosby 76 points, Patrick Kane picking up 62, Claude Giroux 59. How is 59 points our third leading scorer when this team's looking as good as we are? Granted, we still have 2-0 overalls on the team. That's definitely going to hurt our production. The goaltending, though, is fantastic from both of these guys right here. I don't really care who's the starter for the postseason, but we all know it's going to be John Gibson. And John Gibson, you better be prepared to play your best hockey. We have the high-flying Edmonton Oilers in the first round. Now, we've done a better job than I was expecting. We're actually competing with the Edmonton Oilers so far. Game 5 is going to be a big one, but unfortunately, we're going to be dropping that one in OT. We got to respond if we want to keep our Stanley Cup hopes alive, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're off to Game 7 in round number 1. So here we go. We got the Moncton Tigers taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Game 7. Winners making it to the second round here. Unfortunately, Edmonton is in their prime, and they have this guy right here, Corey Perry. He's a 90 overall right now. He's absolutely elite, and we have to find an answer for them pretty quick here, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that. We're going to be dropping this one 3-1. Granted, Edmonton's a really good team right now. Like, not only do they have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but they got a 90 overall Corey Perry. He's in his prime. Yeah, that team's going to be unstoppable. So just looking at the offensive production from this team, something definitely went wrong in our goaltending, because these numbers right there are really good. The goaltending, also very good. Okay, it was just a close series the entire way. Everyone produced. We just weren't good enough, plain and simple. Now, although we lost in the postseason, I am very happy about this. The Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup champions, and that means Carey Price is a Stanley Cup champion. You'll love to see it. So we're able to compete with the best in the league now. We're making the postseason, but we do need to be a bit better. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they have one guy that's really good right now, but now that he's back in his prime, he's a bit better. But he actually might not be the guy we're selecting. Is there somebody else on Tampa Bay that hasn't played in a few years? Now, when I was originally thinking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, the first guy that came to mind is Steven Stamkos. He's back in his prime now at 93 overall. However, they do have this one defenseman on their team. His name is Brent Seabrook. Technically, he's still on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and now he's on our team. We're going to round out our defensive core after I get rid of a Jordan NHL, though. So the team is just about complete here. We finished up the defense. It's going to be Brett Burns, Mark Stahl, Alec Martinez, Brett Seabrook, Ryan McDonough, and Alex Edler holding it down here. The only thing we have left to add is one more forward to the team, and then we're going to be hoisting a Stanley Cup. But you never know, we could win with the 0 overall on the team. Now, I understand that we only have 1 0 overall on the team, and with that 0 overall, we're not really going to perform here. But our team is a lot better than what we did this season. 17th in the entire league. This has to be a joke. We're probably going to win a Stanley Cup now that we've had such an abysmal season, because I really don't know what went wrong with this team. Offensively, we weren't that bad. Defensively, I guess we weren't that good, because I mean, John Gibson, a 316. How do we add Brett Seabrook to the team and then get significantly worse? Not really too sure what happened to this team, but you know what? We're going to surprise a lot of people in the postseason. We have a fantastic team here, and we have the Vancouver Canucks in the first round. Vancouver, you better be prepared. So I really thought we were going to do better than this. I thought we were going to step it up in the playoffs when it mattered, but clearly we're not doing that. We're down 3-2 in the series, so we got to make a big comeback here, and it looks like that's what we're doing. We're winning game 6 4-2, and we're off to game 7. So here we go, game 7. The Moncton Tigers taking on the Vancouver Canucks. Moncton's picking up 4 goals in the first period. We got this game locked down. We're off to the second round, a massive 6-1 victory. That was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Shout out to Claude Giroux and Patrick Kane, because both of those guys carried the way, and a Joe NHL scored. Okay, we have to win a Stanley Cup if Joe NHL is scoring. So we've gone ahead and made to the second round, and honestly, I'm not scared of anyone. The Vegas Golden Knights, yeah, they're a great team, but the Moncton Tigers are certainly better. So the second I got confident this team's completely completely fallen apart. Vegas is currently up 3-1 in this series, and I don't think we're going to be making a comeback here. If we do, it's going to be a massive one because we were down 3-0. I got to emphasize that. But you know what? We're not going to be making that comeback. We're falling in game 6. The fact that we were that bad during the regular season, that can never happen again. We're adding one more forward to this team, and then this team better be ready to win a Stanley Cup. So we got to add one more forward to the team. Give me a team that has a great forward that's not in their prime anymore. The Toronto Maple Leafs and John Tavares, that's the answer for us. We all know John Tavares isn't in his prime anymore, but he would be a great addition to this team, a 91 overall. I mean, Mark Giordano, he'd be a nice addition as well, but you know what? We don't need a defenseman. I mean, Matt Murray's down here in 87 overall. They actually have a handful of guys back in their prime, and they're looking like a good team. Now that I'm looking at this team, I'm not surprised Toronto's won a handful of Stanley Cups in the video so far. But John Tavares, you're going to be the final piece to the forward core here in 91 overall. Now we should be good enough to win a Stanley Cup. So we made a couple changes to the team, and this is what we're looking at. Crosby, Kane, Huberdeau, Tavares, Giroux, Kessel. Then we got the big three in Tarasenko, Shannon, Schwartz. They've moved down to the third line, and then we're going to be capped off by Sean Monahan, Elias Lindholm, and Blake Wheeler. When we move over to the defense, this is what we're looking at here. It's going to be Brent Burns and Mark Stahl, Alec Martinez and Brett Seabrook, and then McDonough and Edler to finish it off. We look at the goaltenders. We got John Gibson. We got Jaroslav Halak. Two guys that have been great this entire video. But you know what? They haven't been able to win us a Stanley Cup, but that's about to change right now. So with the addition of John Tavares, it's finally happened. The Moncton Tigers are one of the best teams in the entire league. We're second here with a 51-22-9 record. The offense is flying. The defense is amazing. We have no weaknesses on this team whatsoever. We can run lines 1 through 4, but somebody explained to me how Claude Giroux is +1 and John Tavares is only +6. That makes absolutely no sense considering how good this team is and the goaltending numbers. I'm going to be completely honest. I thought they would be better than this. Like Jaroslav Halak had a 913 to 255, but somehow only had a 9-6-1 record. Your record should definitely be better with numbers like this. So that means we got to step up in front of our goaltenders. They're doing absolutely everything they can, but we're not performing in front of them. That changes right now. We have the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. Let's make a statement. So like every series we've been involved in up until this point, we're going to split the first 4 games. We got to win game 5 and we got to win game 6 here. We can't be going to game 7 once again. We're going to be closing it out in a 4-1 victory. So although Vegas is a great team and we all know this, when it comes to their actual record, they weren't that great this season. And you know who was significantly better than them? The Seattle Kraken, and that's who we have to face in the second round. Yeah, so you remember how I was trying to gas up the Seattle Kraken? Well, they're complete frauds. We're taking them out in a sweep, and we've moved on to the conference finals. So we've reached the conference finals, but now it's time for 2 of the best to match up against each other. We got the Moncton Tigers taking on the Dallas Stars. Guys like Ryan Suter are better, Tyler Seguin's better, Jamie Benn's better. They have upgrades across the entire team, and they still have the otter in between the pipes, so they're definitely going to be an elite team. While over in the Eastern Conference, Tampa's still around, the Toronto Maple Leafs are still around, and as we just saw from Toronto, they're pretty good. But it looks like the Dallas Stars just aren't going to be enough for the Moncton Tigers. We have a 3-1 series lead. We're looking to close it out in game number 5. That's exactly what's happening. Here we are, the Stanley Cup final. We just don't know who we're taking on yet. More than likely, it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I would love to play Toronto because we already know that team's going to choke. So the Stanley Cup final is set. The Moncton Tigers taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. 2 great teams, but one is clearly better, and I think we all know which team that is. So these are the biggest games of the video so far. We're in the Stanley Cup final. All we have to do is win 4 games here. We might have dropped the first 2, but we're responding after that. 2 big scoring games. We got to keep that offense flowing. That's not going to be happening. We got to win game 6. If we lose game 6, we're eliminated. We win game 6, we're off to game 7, and we're going to need game 7 to settle this one. So it all comes down to this, a matchup against the Toronto Maple Leafs for the Stanley Cup. The first period is going to have no scoring. In the second period, the offense is going to get started. David Kamp's going to pick up the lone goal. Here we go. The third period. Who's going to be winning this one? John Tavares from the Moncton Tigers is going to be scoring. We need overtime. Game 7 overtime. Who's going to be taking this one home? Brent Burns, an OT winner. He's scoring on a prime Matt Murray, and the Moncton Tigers are Stanley Cup champions. Nah, that really came all the way down to game 7 overtime, but when push came to shove, this team stepped up when it mattered most, and Patrick Kane, you were phenomenal. 32 points here, 17 goals. Jonathan Huberdeau was great as well. Sidney Crosby, Tarasenko, everyone on this team was absolutely fantastic, and the goaltending numbers, they were incredible as well. A prime John Gibson, 16 wins, 0 shots, but he had a 922 and a 245. This man was absolutely elite. So the Moncton Tigers are Stanley Cup champions. The Everett Elks, on the other hand, they're still looking for their franchise. And when I say they lost their franchise, I didn't mean they relocated or they lost the rights to their franchise. They just don't know where they placed it. They literally misplaced a franchise. How does that even happen? So once Everett finds their team, they'll be back pretty quick.